What is the self-talk you're doing when you get choked?
My world ranking was 11th in the world.
How do you cultivate that fighter mindset?
Within 30 seconds, I was 6-0 up on him. Forget your dreams, forget your goals, forget your blah blah blah. It's never happening. मेरी उंगलियां टूट रही हैं, and I'm like, this is for the world championship.
You have trained some of the greatest fighters in India.
That one fighter, UFC, he can murder everybody one by one, and you can do nothing about it. That's the level of a UFC fighter.
What happened in that last round with Anshul?
पैसे नहीं थे, कितनी बार बेचारा फाइट खेलने गया, ओपोनेंट भाग गया, एंड वो लोन लेके गया था फाइट खेलने के लिए अंशुल. बट माइक ब्रिडन गिरा नहीं. द फाइट बोनस दैट ही गॉट वाज $50,000. Millions and millions and millions for a fight. They treat athletes like cattle, man. And in India, I'm the only competition black belt. है ही नहीं कोई, bro.
How do you become great? Thank you so much, Siddharth sir. It makes sense. My target is to reach men and change their mindset and help them grow in their life.
Good.
Be it mentally, physically, financially, with of course knowledge from guests like you. So before we move on into the deep discussions of this podcast, I just want your introduction in your words.
My introduction, my words. Okay, I'll go the traditional route. So my name is Siddharth Singh. I am India's first competition BJJ black belt. I hold a master's degree in economics from Scotland. Before that I was in DU. I have economics honors from here. I worked in London for 5 years. So I was a brand manager for brands like Lacoste and Ted Baker and a bunch of these fashion brands. So I lived there for 5 years. And then I came back with a dream of starting a new sport in India, sport of mixed martial arts. And yeah, I've been here for 10 years with CrossFit Fight Club. And we have now fighters fighting in the UFC. We have fighters fighting in one championship. We have some of the best fighters in India. So that's a very brief and quick introduction into who I am.
Interesting. So sir, like you said, like BJJ, you mentioned BJJ, right? So would, like, for the uninitiated people who are watching this,
Sure.
just give a quick intro of what is BJJ, what goes around in that scene.
I think before I can talk about BJJ, I think it's very important to talk about martial arts.
Right.
So a lot of people might know a little bit of, generally when I say martial arts, people will say judo karate. Judo karate wala hai. But it's important to understand that there's a lot more and understand what each of those martial arts are. So you can split martial arts into two different categories. There is striking martial arts, in which you punch and kick
Right.
to strike someone. That's striking martial arts. And then you have grappling martial arts, where you throw someone or you do body weight control. So judo is a sport where you throw people. Jiu-jitsu is a sport where you don't punch or kick, but you control someone's body and you do joint manipulations, chokes. You can break someone's hand, dislocate someone's shoulder. Wrestling is, again, wrestling there's no kushti jo hoti hai.
Right.
कोई punch kick नहीं करता है, but those guys can take you down whenever they feel like on the ground. So they're two different. You can split martial arts into striking and grappling. My background was striking background. I was 12 years old when I started boxing. That was my first martial art, and I was the best boxer in my school. I boxed. I was shortlisted for Uttaranchal state boxing team, and then when I went to the UK, I started doing something called Muay Thai. Muay Thai is the national sport of Thailand. It's a brutal sport. It's got punches, kicks, elbows, and knees. So when you fight, you can really hurt someone with elbows, knees, punches, kicks. So I started doing that. And then one day, because I'm talking about, I had been training boxing and Muay Thai for 10, 12 years. Then in my Muay Thai gym in London, there was this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or BJJ seminar that was happening. And they called me in and my coach said, come down, you're one of the best fighters we have. Why don't you try this new martial art? And I had no interest. Especially when I came to the ground, came for the class, I saw people like training on the ground. And again, I came from a striking martial art, and most people, when you're listening to this, they think of martial arts as a striking martial art. Ki punch marega, kick marega.
Right.
I was the same, because I watched Bollywood movies, Hollywood movies, sab ye karte hain. There was no grappling whatsoever. So when I came in, Jiu-Jitsu was the first time I actually saw a grappling martial art. The second one, not the striking, the grappling one.
Right.
And I couldn't understand कि हो क्या रहा है ground में, क्यों, why are they rolling on each other, why are they hugging each other, क्यों पकड़ के बैठे हुए नीचे. I couldn't understand it until my coach actually told me that there's one person who doesn't have a partner, आप उनके साथ कर लो, we won't charge you for the seminar, कर लो आप वहाँ पर. So I went, and that girl was 40 kilos, choti si thi, but she'd been training for a while. She was a senior, but she'd been training for a while. And the way she was able to control me and dominate me, and I was not, मैं random कुछ सड़क से आया नहीं हुआ था. I'd been training, I'd been competing as a fighter, boxing में था. She was able to control me. So that's why I realized that this martial art, this is crazy. Because if I need to fight you, and if I need to punch and kick you, I need some space.
Right.
You're there, perfect. I can throw a head kick to your head. I can throw. But if you are extremely close to me, like a wrestler, and you grab my body and your head is buried here, and you're lifting me up in the air, I can try to hit you, but I don't have enough space. I need space to hit you. And in a grappling martial art, by the time you try and punch the guy, he's already grabbed you, he's lifted you over the shoulder, and he's slamming your head on the concrete. So I realized that you need to learn both. You can't just be a striker, or you can't just be a grappler. Same thing with grappler. A grappler, a good judo guy, a good wrestler will struggle if he can't clinch against a striker. So I realized that I was a striker, I need to learn grappling. That's how I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's why I realized that I have good striking already. If I can learn this grappling bit, then in a fight, I am pretty much invincible. Like, I have good Jiu-Jitsu, I have good striking. What else is there? So that's how I got into Jiu-Jitsu, and that is what that martial art is. Jiu-Jitsu is about a smaller person, like that first person I trained with, beating a stronger, bigger person with better technique. So right. Jiu-Jitsu is all about technique, about leverage, about how without actually punching, kicking anyone, you can control them and choke them unconscious or break their arm or whatever you want.
Interesting. So that was your day one of BJJ training where you got introduced, and till now it's been a long journey, right? I'm sure you must be tired of telling about your titles, but just for the audience, I would like to know आपके titles के बारे में बताइए.
Yeah, so it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't about, when I started off Jiu-Jitsu, like I said, it was not really about winning titles. But as I came to India, I started teaching mixed martial arts, started teaching Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of people would, you know how it is. कुछ भी आप नया शुरू करते हो, generally people are like, ये काम नहीं करेगा, it's not going to work out. And we were doing a good job. मैं 2013-14 की बात कर रहा हूँ. We were doing a great job, teaching really well. But people who were not training or people from other places would always say कि नकली हैं, फ्रॉड हैं, बिकॉज एक्चुअली सारे उस समय फ्रॉड थे. इंडिया में सारे फ्रॉड लोग सिखा रहे थे, पीपल हु हैड नॉट ट्रेन्ड.
ओके.
सो व्हेन वी केम टू द सीन, सारे नकली थे, सारे कराटे वाले थे, who were claiming to teach jiu-jitsu, claiming to teach MMA. So when we came in and we were trying to do a good job, people were still telling us ये नकली हैं, fake हैं, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, how can I prove to them that what we are doing is legit? And उस समय कुछ MMA का सीन नहीं था कि आप students could go and compete anywhere. So I had to start myself. I had to start going to all the tournaments जो हो रहे थे, and I started to take part in all the tournaments in India, across the globe, across the country, everywhere. तो मैं बॉम्बे जाता था, चेन्नई जाता था, बैंगलोर जाता था. I competed everywhere. जो भी jiu-jitsu का tournament हो रहा था, submission grappling का tournament हो रहा था, I went, I took part and I won. So when I started winning all these tournaments, gave us a little bit of, people started to take us a little seriously कि चलो सेट को शायद आता है, बट देन अगेन पीपल विल ऑलवेज बी, यू नो, naysayers जैसे बोलते हैं. दे वर लाइक, जीत रहा है पर इंडिया में जीत रहा है, इंडिया में लेवल है ही नहीं,
राइट?
तो इंडिया में जीतने से क्या है? ओके. सो देन 2016-17 फर्स्ट टाइम आई वेंट टू द वर्ल्ड चैम्पियनशिप, एंड द वर्ल्ड चैम्पियनशिप वाज इन रशिया. एंड किसी को भी अगर पता है कॉम्बैट स्पोर्ट्स के बारे में, रशियंस आर द स्कैरिएस्ट, बिगेस्ट पीपल इन ग्रैपलिंग. Because they live in difficult conditions and rough people. So when I went there, I had a really good tournament. Like I reached, I came 4th in the world at purple belt. I beat a guy who I should not have beat. Everyone was shocked when within 30 seconds, I was 6-0 up on him. And then yeah, he was a very strong guy. He came back, but I still won the fight. And everybody was like, you know, ये क्या, how can an Indian go to Russia and come 4th? सारे शॉक में थे. And my goal was never really to win a medal. My goal was always to let people know that India में है.
Right.
We're doing it. We're doing it authentically. We're doing it nicely. And but again, naysayers would always be like, हाँ medal तो नहीं आया ना, कुछ जीता तो नहीं ना, 4th है तो 4th में क्या है? You know, what is, that doesn't mean anything. So that was my motivation. That was my this thing कि चलो, let's keep working. Let's prove these guys wrong. And that's the team time our MMA team started to pick up. MMA team started. So I started to kind of like, I wanted to compete more in jiu-jitsu, but I wanted to also focus on our fighters because I was never my goal was always to promote the sport. It was never about me getting the limelight. So I started to focus a little bit more on our team. Punyajit was one of our fighters who was coming up. Anshul had just started, so she started coming up. So I kind of took a little bit of a backseat. I started to support these guys more. And then COVID happened. And when the first wave of COVID happened, I felt really sick. Really sick. Matlab, I was about to die wala type in the first wave.
Okay.
Also, doctors didn't know hai kya ye. So I was in the hospital, and when I was lying in the hospital bed, I was like, if I survive this, I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna, for the next 1 year, I'm gonna compete everywhere. All the things that I've kept so far that have not gone out because of putting other people first, let me go out 1 year, just compete the way I want to compete. So yeah, I survived. I came back. I went for the World Championship. COVID ke beech mein they did between the first wave and second wave, they did a World Championship in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
And I went there and I got bronze medal. The first time I got a medal at the World Championship. And I was super excited. Everyone was super excited. And I came back and then people were talking shit again. They're like, COVID ke beech mein the, bahut zyada participants nahi the, people he beat, wo thaka hua tha opponent, blah, blah, blah.
There's always shit to say.
There's always shit to say. I was like, okay. I came back. I was like, okay, I'll do this again. I'll do it with more people. I'll do it with more competitors. I'll do it when it's packed. And that next year, I competed every 2 months. I was in Abu Dhabi competing every 2 months. I ended up winning 4 world championships.
Wow.
1 world championship. And while I'm training and competing, I'm also teaching our team. MMA is not stopping. CrossFit is not stopping. Our job is not stopping. So I'm also MMA sparring with our team. So jiu-jitsu is very different. What I'm doing is, in my competitions are with the gi, with the uniform, with the kimono. What MMA is without the kimono, with gloves, this punching, kicking. I'm doing that also to get my team ready. I'm sparring with them and fighting with them, punching the gi, while I also have to wear the gi separately and do my own training separately.
Right.
And before my last world championship, I was sparring with one of our guys, Nobujit, and he threw a kick. And as he threw a kick, I was just blocking the kick. His kick came a little slower than expected. And as I went to block, MMA gloves are only till this much. Right. Fingers are open. His kick came and landed on these 2 fingers. And I broke these 2 fingers instantly. Oh. Instantly. If you think about it, someone kicking you full power and lands on your fingers this way. Oh. So, ye do chatak gayi andar se. And I had my tournament, still they weird. But mera fight literally was 10 din baad tha in Abu Dhabi. So yeah, I went for the World Championships. I taped them up, pura daba ke jaise, hill hi nahi rahi hai. I went and I fought. I got silver. And jo mera final fight tha, I literally got a guy in a choke. वो choke को loop choke बोलते हैं. I got the guy same hand, same fingers, and it was here. And you can see the video. The guy is about to get choked unconscious, but I'm in more pain because मेरी उंगलियां टूट रही हैं, and I'm like, this is for the world championship.
Right.
जो भी improvement हुआ है 10 दिन में is between a win, and I broke them even more that day when I tried to go for the choke, and he didn't even tap, so I lost the fight. I got silver, but I mean, it is what it is. Right. But yeah, that was kind of my journey. Like I wanted to really prove, and then when I finished the year, the 1 year मैंने खुद को दिया था कि I want to compete as much as I can. That year, when the year finished, my world ranking was 11th in the world.
Oh wow!
And Asia 4th. So I came 4th in Asia, 11th because AGP is where I competed. And AGP का circuit होता है worldwide. Brazil में tournaments होते हैं, US में होते हैं, Canada में होते हैं. There's a ranking system.
Right.
So I overall finished 11th in the world, 4th in Asia. So yeah, really that was kind of my whole journey to tournaments and competing, because I wanted to just prove to people that no, actually we are not fake, and our results speak for ourselves. We can say whatever. कोई भी बोल सकता है कि मैं best हूँ, मैं ही हूँ. Results speak. Go look at the competitions. Who's winning the competitions? Who's going against Russians? Who's going against the best Americans, Brazilians? कौन लड़ रहा है, कौन जीत रहा है? So that's what we do.
Right. That's very inspiring. Since we are, like you explained कि वो last round में क्या हुआ था, I would want to bring this up थोड़ा पहले कि I would like to know what goes in your mind when you enter the fight, right? When you're entering the fight, what is that self-talk that you're doing in terms of the mindset? What is the self-talk you're doing when you're choking your opponent? What is the self-talk you're doing when you get choked from the opponent?
I think because I can say it as me as an athlete and also me as a coach, because I deal with athletes on a daily basis. So me as an individual, I'm a pretty chilled out guy. I'm a pretty laid back guy. I'm not a very aggressive guy. I don't want to beat up anybody. I seem intense sometimes, but I'm not. I'm pretty chilled out. So I'm never fighting to beat anybody up. My goal since day one was to do it because I enjoy doing it.
Right.
That's why I do it. So even when I'm, like I told you, everyone has their own motivation. My motivation every time I step on the mats is to prove to the world that India mein hota hai yaar, aata hai hमें. That's my entire motivation, just to prove to Brazilians and Colombians that Indians can fight. We know what we are doing. So that's always when I compete, I have an India flag here. People always look at me in tournaments like they think I'm from Brazil or South America. Like, I'm from India, man. Like, India mein hota hai? I'm like, yeah, look at this medal. And that's my motivation. That's what inspires me to go and do it. Everyone's different. Anshul, for example, fights because he wants to prove to everybody that he's the best fighter in the world. He has a different motivation altogether. So everybody is different. So me as a coach, then I have to understand, because I'm in his corner. I'm there with him in the middle of the rounds, when he's winning, when he's losing. I need to understand during his training, when he comes to me, that I have a deep understanding of where his motivation lies. What is that one thing that is motivating him to come for training every single day? Is it because his family is in a tough situation, he needs to fight, make money so he can feed his family? Is his motivation coming from some sort of, maybe he wants a better life for himself in the future? Maybe it's coming from something deep rooted where he's insecure about certain things. I need to understand as a coach. So when he's about to give up, I go in and reinforce, bro, this is why you actually started. This is the time to show me if you really want it or you don't want it. So that's very important as a coach for me to understand. So yeah, it's important to understand who you're dealing with, what his motivation is, and then channel that in the right way. So what's going on in my mind, if I'm winning or if I'm losing, nothing. I'm always there just to showcase my art. I'm there I train every single day, and when I'm in competition, it's like, okay, I've trained, I have this skill set, now it's just for me to put it to the test. It's an exam. Just give an exam. पढ़ाई कर लिए पूरा, अब देखते हैं पास होंगे या ट्रेनिंग कर लिए पूरी. So I like to go prepared. मैंने सारा ट्रेनिंग किया है. If I've trained hard, I've eaten right, I've slept well, मेरा कैंप अच्छा था, then it's not in my hands anymore, bro. I've done everything to prepare. Now if I win, great. If I don't win, also great, because now I get to learn. I get to learn that I've worked so hard, but I still had these mistakes that I made. I'll fix it, come back, and I'll go again and test myself. So that's kind of the philosophy I have for myself. It's different with the students though.
Right, because for anyone who's looking at a match, or anyone who is in a fight, be it a match or be it a regular street fight, when till the time you're speaking, it's a different stuff. But when you get punched, जब आप पिट रहे हो, जब आपके हाथ, जैसे आपने बताया कि गले के पास हाथ है और वो आप चोक कर रहा है आपको, उस टाइम पे ब्रेन एक मतलब gives you that reason कि हाँ ठीक है, छोड़ दे यार, क्या फर्क पड़ता है.
Always your brain is the first thing to quit.
Right.
You always have, and I tell this to my students, you always have two people inside you. Someone was making fun of me. They were like, "Coach, you think we are all bipolar?" I said, "No, it's not. It's not that you're bipolar. We all have two voices in us, and that's how evolution also worked. There's one part of us which is always trying to save us, protect us, help us survive, and that's why we survived. That's how our ancestors survived, because that voice kept telling them, okay, jungle hai, wahan sher hai, don't go there. If you go there, you might get eaten. That's why they did not go there. That's why they created these weapons and spears and all. That's why they survived. So that voice is very important. But in today's world, a lot of the times that voice is redundant, because actually there is no sher, no.
Right.
Koi sher hai nahi. So now you need to kind of counter that voice with the other voice, which says that, it is challenging, it's scary to go and compete. सब देख रहे हैं, आप हार सकते हो, आप पिट सकते हो. The other voice is like, yeah, but मैं जीत भी सकता हूँ, and अगर हार गया तो क्या हुआ? What's the worst? What, people will stop talking to me? If my winning or my losing is going to get someone to like me or not like me or not talk to me, right, best not to have them around.
Right.
People who are close to you, who are your friends, who care about you, they will be with you whether they like you or not. So it's about testing yourself, and yeah, that's kind of where it starts and ends from. Like, you need to test yourself, and what other people think or the motivations and all that is irrespective.
No, but I want to know that जब आप जैसे if you were getting choked, for example, in any match, then you know that okay, this is the point turnaround time. अभी मैंने अगर स्टेप नहीं लिया तो मैं हार भी सकता हूँ, राइट? तो तब आपके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा होता है? क्या आपका दिमाग तब बोलता है कि this is easy to quit, like you can just tap
Always,
out?
bro. Always. When the fight is about to start, I'm not even talking about getting choked. You're entering the arena. There are 20,000 people who are sitting. All the lights are on you. You're warming up, and your opponent comes and walks, and he's 6'2", and he's a Russian guy, and he's definitely cutting down from 92 kilos. So I was competing. I made a mistake of competing at 77 kilos. My national weight is about 71, 72. उस साल 69 में participants थे नहीं, so I went up a weight class to 77. So this guy is cutting down from 93 kilos to 77. And I'm like 72 competing in 77 kilos. So I come in and I'm warming up, I'm ready to go. And I see this guy, Shadow. मेरे से shadow गिरती है पीछे. I'm like, who's this guy? Look at this guy. And he's my opponent. And World Championship. Now it's do or die. Now, there's obviously a voice in your head saying, Galti kar di. Just say ki you're injured, you're not well, back out now, pull out now. And then I see in the audience, I have 3 of my students sitting there, cheering their, Baki sare Russian audience is cheering this guy. I have my 3 students looking at me with like big eyes, like, coach is going. Now I can decide, I can quit on me, but I also quit on them. I also quit on our country. I've got the Indian flag here. Am I going to quit, or I'm going to say, okay, fuck it, man. Let's see what this guy's got. If he kicks my ass, he kicks my ass. So what? I went in. Within like 30 seconds, I'm bleeding. I've got blood coming out because he like kind of did a collar drag and my head hit the mat, like face first, cut my lip, got back up. He threw me again. Again, my head hit the mat, got back up. And I was like, yeah, it's on. Now it's on. Okay, all those thoughts, all those things of, oh, it's too big. He's got slammed my head twice. I'm like, okay, now it's one man against the other man. You're bigger, but let's go, man. And it was a fight, it was a battle. But that's what it is. It's about, you have a fighter inside, you've got 2 voices. There is the one that's saying, mat karo, and there is the actual fighter. Everybody has that fighting voice also. You just need to listen to it. I think the more you listen to it, the stronger that voice becomes, and more you can achieve in life. The more you listen to the, don't do it, don't chill, man, that's not achieving anything in life. Sun's gonna rise, sun's gonna set, days are gonna pass by. What you do in that time is up to you. You can listen to the stay inside, don't go outside, you might get hurt. Or no, man, I'm going to go out, I'm going to learn as much as I can, I'm going to grow as much as I can, I'm going to push my body as much as I can, I'm going to try and achieve things which people say impossible. Those are the things I want to go after, because time is going to go by anyway. I might as well do something special with whatever little time I have on this planet. So yeah, what's going on through my mind is like, listen to the voice which says, fuck it, let's try it.
I got goosebumps when you said that यहाँ पे Indian flag होता है and everyone is looking up, and then you can quit, but then of course you choose not to quit.
Exactly. And I'm in the middle of the fight, I'm there, and I've got this one position called lapel guard. And I've got this Russian, and he cannot move. I've got blood. I know I can taste my blood. And I'm looking at the audience. I'm only looking at my 3 students. सारे उसको चिल्ला रहे हैं. He's, looking at the, I literally remember seeing one of my guys, Abhimanyu Chadda, one of the best grapplers in India. And I could see the pride in his face. I could see the pride that coach is fighting this monster and he's holding his own and this Russian can't move. Okay, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, so this works. This works. It's working. Whatever I wanted to do is making a point. It's working. People are getting inspired. So yeah, man. And there's so much. Like I said, you need to understand your motivation. My motivation was representing India, making Indians proud, letting the world know India. So once I tap into that, I'm motivated.
Right.
So that's kind of channeling that whole thing that we spoke about. what your motivation is. I was seeking it through my students. I was like, कोई Indian है नहीं, 3 Indian हैं, मेरे Indians हैं, I know them. That's my motivation.
Wow, interesting. Since we spoke about that, this mindset of a fighter, for people who fight, they're very different. They're built different than the other people who, normal people who are living their lives, going to jobs, and of course they have their own fights. उनके खुद के battles हैं रोज के. Some are fighting their breakup, some are fighting the mind, some are fighting the safety net. कुछ ना कुछ सबकी लड़ाई चल रही है, right? How does one develop and cultivate that mindset of a fighter and go on with their lives? जैसे आजकल जो if you see the current generation and the coming generation of men, most of them are getting weaker, not physically but mentally. Like situations हैं, quit easily कर देते हैं, right? कोई भी ऐसी कोई छोटी मोटी चीजें भी हो जाती हैं तो they are like crying and all of that. But how do you cultivate that fighter mindset?
Great question. I think building good habits is a good start. So because I deal with men more than I think anybody else, at least around in my circle, because I see like 45 men come into this center every day, and I get about 60 to 80 men every day in Saket. So I see 120 men in 2 days period, and I'm coaching and guiding all of them. So what I see is, as you said, you're right, completely right. There is not a space where men are being encouraged to be men. I think people are pretty, so when we talk about men, there's a bit of a stigma now that all men are a certain way.
Right.
And it's kind of being evilized because again, there are bad men.
Right,
But then
yeah.
again, there are bad women as well. So it's both ways. I think a good place to start is to understand if you're a good person or not. You need to start developing and cultivating good habits. So what I do is I have a saying that I share with all my students is, you don't wanna carry the day. You want the day to carry you. So what that means is, if I wake up in the morning, I have nothing to do. I have to now carry the day. Figure out, अब मैं क्या करूँ, नाश्ता कर लूँ, अब मैं क्या करूँ, अच्छा मैं थोड़ा सा ये कर लेता हूँ, अब मैं क्या करूँ, So now you're carrying the burden of the entire day. You have no fucking idea what your day is. Some days you can do something good, or some days you can just waste your entire day. And शाम हो गई and like अब मैं क्या करूँ, दिन निकल गया, waste हो गया. So you're carrying this entire day. What I tell people to do is, the day should carry you. Before you sleep the night before, you should have a list of things that you're doing from the morning time you wake up to the time you sleep. You should have like 30 things that you want to hit on that day. And it's good if you don't hit all of them. Some of them will move over to the next day. But when you wake up and you have a list of 30 things you're hitting off, man, that day, you're just flying. The day is carrying you. 10:30 this meeting, 11 o'clock. Like we had a meeting today. I had like 2 other things I had done earlier. I had no time. Boom, boom, boom. I'm here. I'm doing this thing with you. Boom, 2 o'clock I have a call. I'm off. The day is carrying me, man. There's no time to be procrastinating, wasting, thinking मैं क्या करूँ. Everything is packed. Day is taking care of you. And because you're making the list, you can decide which direction you want to go. I have no time for nonsense. I have no time for social media. People are writing shit. Your guy lost, blah, blah, blah. I have no time. I have no time. I'm focusing on making things happen. 10 years ago, I had a goal of getting an Indian in the UFC. People thought you're crazy, you're mad. India में कोई जानता भी नहीं MMA, and he was talking about UFC. 10 years later, we have an Indian in the UFC. People said MMA as a business will not work in India. Man, we have 3 centers in Delhi itself. I wanted to start a nutrition brand. People like, बहुत ज़्यादा हैं, नहीं हो पाएगा, blah. We are off. We're killing it on Amazon. We're doing really well. So it's, I plan my days. I'm focused on me. I'm focused on creating great things. And that's what I think men need to focus on. You need to understand what they like to do. What are the things that they're passionate about. Plan it. Think of this whole thing as a story which is being written about them, and they should be the leading character of that story. If I was writing a story about Siddharth Singh, and Siddharth Singh is this, is this hero in this movie, then he needs to do everything possible to make sure that story, after the story finishes, they're all like, fuck, he achieved so much. He did so many things. And I think if men can start looking at themselves in that light, that they can achieve great things, you will start to see great things out of them. I see with my students, when I tell them that, bro, you have potential to become a world champion, their eyes light up. They're shocked because they haven't ever heard that. They haven't heard. I spoke to my student the other day. He was a new guy, and I told him, bro, I have never seen anybody's legs, when playing jiu-jitsu. This leg dexterity, I call it. Your legs move like hands, man. It's crazy how good you're able to do this. And he's like, eyes wide open. Like, coach, I didn't even know. Like, nobody's ever. The first time he was hearing an actual compliment from a higher authority person. And that just completely like changed his attitude. All of a sudden, from a shy, introverted guy, he's now asking questions. He's more interactive. He's intentionally like trying to use his legs more. You can just see sometimes all you need to do as a coach or as a leader is to just give them a little bit of inspiration. Just give them a little bit of confidence. I think that's what men need. Just a thoda sa confidence in what they want to do, and they will achieve great things, man.
Right. But what about the mindset? Like, this is, for example, like someone who's watching this, वो ही बोलेगा कि ठीक है मैं ये अपना day, I'll try this exercise of doing it. And not sure if they do it for 10 days or 15 days or more. What about in those low moments? What happens there? Like when you are down, when your guards are off, and you're feeling that pain of maybe someone leaving, maybe your job going away, maybe your business not working out, or maybe whatever you're doing is not giving you results.
Yeah.
What happens in those low moments?
So I think you mentioned it a couple of times. So about someone else. So it's an external factor. Is a girlfriend leaving you, or someone dumping you, or that's a very common thing with men. Like girlfriend ne chhod diya, and they're like, fuck, what do I do now?
Right.
What do I do with my life? Well, that's why I said, if you're writing that storybook, and you're the leading character of that movie, and if the girl leaves you and she doesn't choose you, she chooses someone else, or she abandons you, or she's unfaithful to you, or whatever it is, what do you think the hero of the movie will do? You think now the movie ends and he's sitting there crying? No, man. He's getting back up. He's channeling that, and he's going, okay, you left me and you didn't think I was good enough. I'm going to show you. I'm going to work so hard. I'm going to achieve so many great things that you're going to sit from a distance one day and look at me and say, shit, I fucked up. He was the guy I needed to be with. I fucked up. I didn't see it. So you can always look at the glass half full or half empty. It's just the main purpose of life. And I'm saying this to everybody, like purpose of your life is you.
Right.
Purpose of my life is me.
Right.
You need to optimize you for you. I need to optimize me for me. My happiness cannot come from you or from someone else here or someone else there. And I think that is what the mindset should be. It should be, okay, I'm feeling shit today, and that's normal. It happens every single day. But the reason why I said you need to have the day carry you is when you're hitting 30 things a day, firstly, you don't get so much time to think about this nonsense. Okay, and this is, sorry to say it, but it is nonsense. Someone is upset with you. Somebody is upset with you. Fuck, what did you do? Man, you didn't call them at whatever time they wanted to call you. It's nonsense. This does not exist. Right. It's in people's head and their mind. Oh, he didn't call me at 10 and I wanted to speak to him. Speak to me now. We'll speak when we have time. That's what it is. So I come from that mentality, and I understand people. When I was younger and stupider, I made those mistakes also by investing too much in someone else. If you're content, you're confident, and you know what you're doing, you're going to attract the right people. The person who wants, he or she demands 30 hours of your day, wants to talk to you all the time, and so dependent on you, man, that's probably not the right person for you. And if you're the person who just wants to give in to that person, then forget your dreams, forget your goals, forget your blah, blah, blah. It's never happening. And again, men, women ka nahi hai, even women. For relationships, you need to see yourself as a whole. So like if you and I, they talk about our partners, like I need to be whole, she needs to be whole, and together we need to be more. Right. That's how it should be. I'm not trying to fill any gaps in her life. She's not trying to fill any gap. No, I'm complete and I'm content. I don't need her, okay, to be in my life. I want her to be in my life. Because together it's fun and we can create great things. So that's my point of view. So I think that's what you were going for, like in terms of when you're feeling low. And you will face those days, man. Some days it is going to be hard. Get through them. When you have 30 things a day, you're doing it, and you said maybe you don't have for 10 days. just in 10 days, he's created momentum, man. हम लोगों ने physics में किया था inertia,
Right.
right? When something is moving, it's going to constantly move. If you have a bad day, you will not do 30 things, maybe you'll do 3 things. But if you're the guy who's not doing anything at all, for you a very tough day is when you get 2 things done.
Right.
So someone who's not doing anything, for them 2 things are difficult. For you on your off day, 3 things are easy. Like you're like, kuch bhi nahi kiya, 3 things done. So create that momentum. Do a lot of things. Not a lot of things, but be constructive. Have good things planned out. So the day is carrying you, and you're on a roll. Your moment, even your off day, you'll do more things than people on their good days.
You have trained some of the greatest fighters in India right now, and one of them is Anshul, right? And I've met Anshul last year, and like in those 3 hours, I realized how what kind of mindset that guy is carrying right before his fight. That was before his fight with Mike, and that's when I realized, because he told me that you're coaching him, and now I can connect to all those dots that okay, where does this mindset come from, right? बट वट हैपन्स इज लाइक यू सेड, जब आपने स्टार्ट किया था एंड कुछ कुछ चीज़ें हुई थी तो किसी ने बोला कि अरे ब्रॉन्ज आ गया तो क्या हो गया, फर्स्ट तो नहीं आया है ना, और अगर फोर्थ आया तो क्या हुआ, लाइक एवरीवन हैज शिट टू से. What happened with Anshul is in his last fight, people started trolling him after it, right? There were a lot of people who were like, अरे इतना बोलने की जरूरत नहीं थी, क्यों बोल दिया, और मतलब बन लिया हीरो टाइप्स. A lot of people are slamming him online and saying कि भाई इंडियंस के बस का नहीं है. So those are all the shit talkers, right? You were the one who were very close to him in those moments, before the fight, after the fight, during the fight. I would like to know from your perspective, your end, what happened in that last round with Anshul?
Okay. So let's go back first and let's talk about people talking, all the nonsense. The thing is that most people cannot relate to a champion. Most people cannot relate to a UFC fighter. They have no idea what it takes to become a UFC fighter. And दोनों साइड होता है इक्वेशन का. 50% लोग ऐसे होते हैं who are inspired by the journey, who are living their dream through this champion. So Anshul came to the UFC. He won a tournament. He didn't just get an offer or contract. He won a tournament, road to the UFC tournament to get into the UFC. He won. He became a champion in a way of road to the UFC. That is not relatable. Like, not many people win a tournament. Not many people win a tournament in their own school.
Right.
Much less in the entire world to get into. So there is not relatable. It inspires some people, but for some people, they just want you to fail. That's how it is. And we've experienced that from the get-go. Like I said, we started cross-train and then people were like, nakli hai, fake hai. It started, that's how life is. That's how the human nature is. It's a very thin line where, someone hates you or someone falls in love with you. It's that close. Had Anshul won that fight, all the guys who are trolling him would be one of his biggest fans. True. That's what it is. And you can see it at the big level. You can look at McGregor, you can look at how many people love him, how many people hate him. It's the same thing. What McGregor has been able to achieve, Conor McGregor, and people can only dream of. Okay, but he's got more haters than anybody else. And same thing with Anshul. Like, he achieved greatness. He won a tournament in the UFC where people didn't give us a chance. When me and Anshul sat down and I told him that he's got a chance to fight in the UFC, road to the UFC, he couldn't believe it. He was like, really? I was like, yeah, we are in. He was so happy. And he was so happy to represent Uttarakhand and India at the world stage. He was crazy. Now, if people come back and say, oh, he overconfident tha, ye tha, ko tha. Man, you need confidence. If you're going to fight against some of the best fighters, they're not fighters, man. You don't understand. जब आप UFC में जा रहे हैं और आप किसी से फाइट कर रहे हैं, लाइट वेट में फाइट कर रहे हैं, वो बंदा कभी भी आ सकता है. That level, I'm just telling you, he can enter a hall of 500 people, that one fighter UFC, he can murder everybody one by one and you can do nothing about it. That's the level of a UFC fighter. 10 years ago, Mike Breeden would have been a UFC champion. That is the level of Mike Breeden. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Now, Anshul, an Indian guy who's lived in India his entire life, was not a combat sports athlete as a kid. ओके, वो नॉर्मल उत्तरकाशी में नॉर्मल बच्चा था, जो भी स्पोर्ट होते थे स्कूल में खेल रहा था हम लोग की तरह, कबड्डी एंड दिस वो खेला उसने। उसने 22-23 साल की एज में एमएमए शुरू किया, 22-23 की एज में। दैट्स व्हेन ही गॉट इन टच विद अस। ओके, अपना बच्चा है घर पे, यहाँ पर लिटरली इंडिया में पैदा हुआ है, यहाँ पर ग्रो अप हुआ है, यहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग की है। अब वो सब कुछ अचीव करके, डेडिकेट करके, काम वाम छोड़ के इतने साल गया, इंडिया को रिप्रेजेंट किया, इंडिया को यूएफसी ले गया। इससे इससे बड़ा अचीवमेंट इंडियन कॉम्बैट स्पोर्ट्स में क्या हो सकता है कि हम लोग का एक अपना, बाहर से नहीं था, कनाडा का नहीं था, इंग्लैंड का नहीं था कि 4 जनरेशन से फैमिली बाहर है, इंडियन है हम, नहीं है आप इंडियन। ये बंदा अपना बंदा है। इसने 5-6 साल जो मैंने उसको देखा है, पैसे नहीं थे, कितनी बार बेचारा फाइट खेलने गया, ओपोनेंट भाग गया, एंड वो लोन लेके गया था फाइट खेलने के लिए अंशुल, ओपोनेंट भाग गया, कुछ नहीं मिला। एक बार वो टूर्नामेंट खेलने गया था फिलीपींस, सारा लोन लेके गया, वीज़ा वीज़ा मुश्किल से कराया, वहाँ पहुँचा, टूर्नामेंट ही नहीं हुआ। अब उसकी तबीयत ख़राब हो गई, वहाँ पर 102 उसको बुखार है, फिलीपींस में अकेला है, कोई कॉर्नर करने के लिए नहीं, कोई हेल्प करने के लिए नहीं, बेचारा फ्लाइट में वापस आ रहा है, तबीयत ख़राब है, बॉडी हिल रही है। ये सब उसने किया है। तब जब वो यूएफसी में जाता है और जीतता है इंडिया के लिए, और वो जाके ये नहीं बोलता मैं इतना ग्रेट हूँ, वो बोलता है नमस्ते यूएफसी। क्यों? वो इंडिया को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है, वो इंडिया की प्राइड है, वो इंडिया को चाहता, दुनिया को चाहता है कि दुनिया रिकग्नाइज करे कि इंडिया में भी हम लोग हैं और हम लोग फाइटर्स हैं। इस टाइप के बंदे को आप कैसे, हाउ कैन यू डिसलाइक हिम? वो मेरा स्टूडेंट है, पर वो किसी और का भी स्टूडेंट होता, मैं आई वुड स्टिल बी प्राउड ऑफ हिम, ऑफ थिंग्स ही इज अचीव्ड इन हिज लाइफ। सो now, having said that, he won a lot of fights, he's achieved great things, but even the Mike Breeden ka fight, he won the first round, he won the second round, he sat on the stool, and we thought, हो गया यार, एक राउंड तो बचा है, he'll win, he's doing well. Now, he went into that fight thinking कि I have to make a statement, because he's been trying to prove people wrong throughout his journey. लोग बोलते थे बहुत लेट शुरू कर रहा है, ये है, वो है, ये नहीं कर सकता, वो नहीं कर सकता, जीसू अच्छा नहीं, पहले बोलते थे उसको, बाद में बोलने की स्ट्राइकिंग नहीं है अच्छी, सब बोलते रहे। तो अंशुल वांटेड टू गो एंड ही वांटेड टू प्रूव कि ही कैन नॉक माइक ब्रीडन आउट। तो वो राउंड 2 में जब गया तो उसने मेरे को पहले बोला हुआ था, कोच मैं इसको सेकेंड राउंड में नॉकआउट करूंगा। तो सेकेंड राउंड जब आया, अंशुल हैड माइक ब्रीडन वेरी हर्ट, एंड अंशुल उसको बहुत मार रहा था सेकेंड राउंड में। And he was actually in a position which Anshul had told me कि कोच हम लोग इस पोजीशन में होंगे and I will do this. And Anshul ने किया वो चीज़ें, he did exactly those things, but Mike Breeden गिरा नहीं, he kept standing. तो even though the round finished and we won the round, inside Anshul was still thinking कि मैं इसको खत्म कैसे नहीं कर पाया. In my head, I was going to finish him in the second round, मैं इसको कोई खत्म नहीं कर पाया. अब मेरे को एक राउंड और खेलना पड़ेगा. That's what. तो it's important to understand the psychology of it. Anshul is coming into that round thinking, shit मैं खत्म नहीं कर पाया उसको, shit he took my best shots, खत्म नहीं कर पाया. माइक ब्रीडन जब बैठा स्टूल पे अपने राउंड पे, वो 2 राउंड हार चुका था. उसका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में यूएफसी का लास्ट फाइट था. अब उसके कॉर्नर उसको बोल रहे हैं कि आपका सब खत्म है, यूएफसी निकाल देगा, एमएमए छोड़ दो, ये ऑप्शन है, ऑप्शन 2 है, आप जाके इस राउंड में जो देना है दे दो, खत्म कर दो, बिकॉज अब तो चांस नहीं है,
Nothing to lose.
nothing to lose. So Anshul is sitting in the stool thinking, shit यार खत्म नहीं कर पाया. That guy is saying, okay, everything, this round, everything. So that's when the two people met. Anshul went in a little bit low energy, and Mike Breeden went in with all cylinders launched. That is what happened, and it's fight, man. Anything can happen. Anything can happen, and I'm still so proud of how well Anshul fought, because let me be honest, when you're training, living and training in the US, आपके एक नॉर्मल ट्रेनिंग रूम में, आपके एकेडमी में 25-30 यूएफसी फाइटर्स हैं जिनके साथ डेली ट्रेनिंग करते हैं. ओके, अंशुल इज ट्रेनिंग इन द प्लेस वेयर ही इज द ओनली यूएफसी फाइटर अराउंड. ही विल बी लकी इफ ही गेट्स समवन फ्रॉम बेलेटोर. दैट्स व्हाट इट इज. तो आप, अनफॉर्चुनेटली, इट्स अ बेनिफिट एंड अ नेगेटिव थिंग दैट कि आपके आसपास यूएफसी लेवल का कैलिबर है नहीं. तो so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put him in a different environment where he gets UFC level training, because he's going to fight people who are training with UFC fighters all the time. So yeah, it happened, but he fought super well. Yeah.
राइट, या आई वांटेड टू नो कि व्हाट इज वाज दैट बीटीएस, क्योंकि लोगों का काम तो वही है बोलना कि अरे क्या है, ऐसे
वो
थोड़ी,
तो जीता फिर भी लोग बोलते हैं।
फिर भी बोलते कुछ ना कुछ, राइट, एंड पीपल डोंट रियलाइज कि वो बंदा जहाँ खड़ा है और जिसके अगेंस्ट खड़ा है, मोर इम्पोर्टेंटली जिसके अगेंस्ट वो खड़ा है, उसके अगेंस्ट आई डोंट थिंक कोई और उतना भी टिक पाता जितना वो 2 राउंड्स किया, बिकॉज दैट गाय वाज, एंड लाइक यू टोल्ड, जो माइंडसेट की स्टोरी थी कि भाई वो बंदा घुसा ही था कि अब मेरे पास कुछ खोने को नहीं है, अब तो मैं सब लगा दूंगा.
नहीं, but also look at the circumstances. Anshul is not just fighting that Mike Breeden.
राइट.
Anshul is also fighting everything, all the challenges that you face being an athlete in our country. He's facing all of that.
राइट.
क्यों कर रहा है, क्यों टाइम वेस्ट कर रहा है, देहरादून क्यों क्यों छोड़ के जा रहे हो, लुक एट अपने कजन को देखो, वो ये कर रहा है, अपने भाई को देखो क्यों कर रहा है. तो आप ये सब लड़ते हुए, फाइट करते हुए, सबसे नहीं करते हुए, देन यू आर ट्राइंग टू मेक अ करियर. 22 साल की एज पे आप आके ये सब कर रहे हो. इट इज़ नॉट ईजी मैन.
Right.
यूएस में इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. यूएस में बच्चे 6 साल के, 6-7 साल के, दे स्टार्ट ट्रेनिंग बिकॉज वहाँ पर दे नो इट्स अ करियर. यहाँ पर आप ओपोनेंट से तो फाइट कर रहे हो, बट यहाँ पर यू फाइटिंग एवरीथिंग एल्स, द सिस्टम, पीपल ट्राइंग टू होल्ड यू बैक, पीपल टॉकिंग शिट अबाउट यू, स्पॉन्सरशिप नहीं मिल रहे, ये नहीं हो रहा, वो नहीं हो रहा, पैसे नहीं है. Those are the things you're also fighting against, not just your opponent. So it's a lot more deep rooted and challenging than people. Maybe in 10 years time it changes, but where Anshul has managed to go with the limited support that we have, it's crazy, man.
And I'm sure CFC is doing a great job in making sure that आगे के 10 साल में we'll kill it in MMA.
We are trying our best, man, but the thing is that we are just an academy.
Right.
हम लोग भी कितना ही करें यार. We try to help out. We have 50-60 fighters and सब घर से लड़के आए हैं. किसी को घर का सपोर्ट नहीं है, कोई किसी के पास पैसे नहीं है. So we are sponsoring close to 60-70 kids, 60-70 of our students. हम लोग we sponsoring, कुछ को partial कर रहे हैं, कुछ को full कर रहे हैं, but man, it's difficult. It's very difficult because how much can I also do यार? If I just take an office job 9 to 5, I'll make more money than I'm running. This is not a business at all. This is just a passion which I'm trying to help people out. So CrossTrain is a family. We're trying to make sure we help our guys get to the next level, but it's tough.
So अभी in the current scene, who do you think from India are like the next great ones?
So Punyajit Likharu has recently won a contract with UFC PI. UFC PI is UFC Performance Institute in Shanghai. तो UFC ने अपना एक ट्रेनिंग अकेडमी खोला है where they will train fighters and get them ready for road to the UFC. तो पुण्यजीत हम लोग का स्टूडेंट है, अंशुल का भी सीनियर है. He's been training at CrossTrain for a long time. तो he's recently made it. So अब उसको he's going to start, he's going to be here tomorrow actually, or tonight he'll be coming for class. But so he will now be the person training for road to UFC next tournament. So he's there. उसके अलावा पूजा तोमर is a female fighter. She's got a fight. She's fighting, I think June में she's fighting. एक दो लोग और हैं, but I think like Punyajit would be the next. If I had to pick one fighter, I think Punyajit is the one that has the maximum potential in the UFC.
Okay, interesting. And जो UFC में MMA होता है inside the octagon, उसमें और जो आप स्पोर्ट खेलते हो BJJ, उसमें क्या कॉमन एलिमेंट्स होते हैं?
तो जैसे मैंने बोला, मिक्स मार्शल आर्ट्स MMA, जो फुल फॉर्म है मिक्स मार्शल आर्ट्स. मिक्स मार्शल आर्ट्स का मतलब ये है कि आप सारे मार्शल आर्ट कंबाइन करके एक स्पोर्ट बना देते हो. कुछ भी चलता है, कुछ भी आप यूज कर सकते हो.
अच्छा.
पंचिंग, किकिंग, कराटे की किक, टाइकोंडो की किक, कुश्ती, जित्सु, कुछ भी कर सकते हो आप.
ओके.
एनीथिंग. जित्सु इज द ग्रैपलिंग साइड ऑफ इट. अब जित्सु भी एज अ स्पोर्ट हैज ग्रोन. तो जित्सु में भी अब रेसलिंग आ गई है, जूडो आ गया है, ग्राउंड फाइटिंग आ गई है, वो सब इंक्लूड हो गया है. तो व्हाट आई विल से इज jiu-jitsu is a very important part of MMA, but it's 1/4. It's 25% of MMA.
Okay.
You can roughly divide MMA into 4 parts. You can say boxing, you can say kickboxing, जिसमें kickboxing, karate, taekwondo सब आ गया. You can call it wrestling, like you can call it jiu-jitsu. जैसे क्रिकेट खेलते हैं, क्रिकेट में बैटिंग, बॉलिंग, फील्डिंग, and maybe you can say wicket keeping, हो गया. Similarly in MMA you got boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. ये 4 एलिमेंट है. इसके बिना आप you can't win, you can't fight. अगर एक भी एलिमेंट मिसिंग है तो आप बहुत हारने वाले हैं. So you need to have all 4. उसके अलावा you can add other elements, but these 4 are the most important ones. And jiu-jitsu as a sport is also got 2 different variants. jiu-jitsu में भी एक gi होता है जो यूनिफॉर्म के साथ होता है, और एक नोगी होता है जिसमें आप यूनिफॉर्म नहीं पहनते, शॉर्ट्स एंड टी शर्ट में चलता है. तो 2 डिफरेंट डिसिप्लिन हो गए हैं उसके अंदर भी.
Okay, interesting. और anyone who wants to, who dreams of going to the UFC, उसके लिए क्या steps हो सकते हैं as a fighter?
He or she needs to find a good training academy to go to. MMA ऐसा स्पोर्ट नहीं है जो आप अकेले कर सकते हैं. आप काफ़ी इंस्पायरिंग लगता है कि घर पे एक बैग लगा लिया, उसको मार रहे हैं रोज़. अनफॉर्चुनेटली उससे कुछ आपको बेनिफिट होने वाला नहीं है, आप कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, जीत नहीं पाएंगे आप. इट्स अ स्पोर्ट वेयर यू नीड अ गुड टीम. आपको बहुत सारे ट्रेनिंग पार्टनर्स चाहिए, आपको बहुत सारे अच्छे कोचेस चाहिए, बिकॉज द स्पोर्ट इज़ वेरी डिफिकल्ट, वेरी टेक्निकल. बॉक्सिंग, लोग बॉक्सर जो होते हैं ज़िंदगी भर स्पेंड कर देते हैं, बॉक्सिंग नहीं सीख पाते पूरा. यहाँ पर बॉक्सिंग भी ऐड करना है, आपको मुआय थाई भी सीखना है पूरा, आपको रेसलिंग भी सीखनी है, कुश्ती सीखनी है, जित्सु सीखनी है, उसके बाद आपको स्ट्रेंथ कंडीशनिंग करनी है, आपको कार्डियो ठीक करना है, डाइट सीखना है, केज वर्क सीखना है. ज़िंदगी निकल जाएगी, कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे आप अकेले. सो यू नीड टू कम टू अ गुड अकेडमी वेयर दे विल फोकस यू, they will tell you what you need to work on, your strengths, your weaknesses, good training partners, and that's how you'll move. So don't waste your time, don't go to a karate place if you want to learn MMA. Find an MMA gym जहाँ पर ऑलरेडी अच्छे फाइटर्स हों, जो compete कर रहे हों, जो जीत रहे हों. Go find a good coach जिसका ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड है, खुद compete करता हो, या फिर उसकी टीम काफ़ी अच्छी परफॉर्मेंसेस दे रही हो MMA में, उनके पास जाओ. कोई कराटे वाला आपको MMA नहीं सिखा पाएगा, अनफॉर्चुनेटली.
So, as a society, if we see currently, there are people who are frustrated, there are people who are agitated, aggressive लोग आपको दिखेंगे रोड पे लड़ते हुए. But then overall, if you see, then the fighting instinct has gone down, be it mental fights or the physical fights. So why do you think this is happening as compared to when we were primitives several thousand years back?
I think fights are happening and people are generally agitated because there's no outlet. There's no outlet for your aggression, for you to take out. We all have a lot of physical energy in us, and you need a good outlet to channelize it. Most people don't have. I don't think we ever wanted to evolve into a species where we sit 9 to 5 on a desk and sit in front of a laptop. That's not what we were meant to do, no. So that leads to a lot of issues and challenges. So it's very important. That's why it's very important to play a sport, because when you play a sport, it's an outlet. Every time I used to do this in school. When I was studying something, exam aa raha tha, I was studying, brain was fried, nahi kuch ho raha tha. I would always either go for a run, I would go work out, or I'll do something else, because it completely like rewires my brain after exercise. And I come back and I sit, and now I can start studying again. My brain is refreshed and recharged. So every time you're feeling frustrated, and I think it happens with all of us, when we're feeling frustrated and irritated, I would encourage people to, exercise. Do whatever you like doing. If you like running, run. If you like doing push-ups, do push-ups. You want to walk in the park, walk in the park. Do something physical, lift some things, move some things. If you think like walk karna hai, but walking is not an exercise, okay, take a backpack, put it with fill like bottles of water, put it in it, wear it, and start walking in a park next to you. It will be a great workout. Or park नहीं है घर के पास, stairs होगा. Put this, start walking down the stairs with your backpack, walk up, walk down, do 20 minutes of it, see how your body feels, man. कुछ भी नहीं है, backpack भी नहीं है, burpees आता है, YouTube में देखो burpee कैसे करते हैं, just do 100 burpees and see how you feel afterwards. Man, that's gonna take care of most of your anger issues and challenges, because outlet नहीं दे रहे हो आप. Do something physical, man. Do something physical. MMA is fantastic. When you come for MMA, it's fantastic. You get to punch, you get to kick, you get to take people down, throw them down. You get to simulate murder in a way. I'm choking someone out, he's about to pass out. He taps on my body, I'll let him go, and we start again. So you're going close to death, and you tap, they let go, and you start again. It's very rare that you see like kids, who are playing and being active, are frustrated in life. They're not frustrated. They're just not mature enough. They fight for stupid reasons, but they're not frustrated with life. Frustration happens when people force you to do something you're not forced to do. When you wear a tie, it's like you're forced to do something. Who wants to wear a tie?
Right.
Who intentionally is comfortable wearing a tie and a tight suit and like those leather shoes which are uncomfortable? Who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. We want to be open, we want to be free, we want to breathe, we want to move. That's how we are. So we are forced to do things we don't want to do.
Right. Quite relatable to a lot of people, I'm sure. If you go, जैसे एक बार एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं आपकी लाइफ का एज अ फाइटर, हाउ डज योर लुक लाइक होल डे लुक्स लाइक, कैसे आपकी मॉर्निंग, आपका माइंडसेट, आपके ट्रेनिंग टाइम्स एंड आपकी कोचिंग कॉल्स और आपके जो आप ट्रेन करते हो, हाउ डज दैट लुक लाइक फॉर समवन हु कैन टेक इंस्पिरेशन फ्रॉम इट?
So it's very different when I have a fight coming up. It's different. When I'm off season, right now I'm off season, so I'm just chilling right now. Chilling in the sense that I train like twice a day only. You know, that's rest of the time it's work. But I'll talk about like if I have a competition coming up, if I'm competing at AGP, then it's probably like waking up with the morning jog. I'll wake up and I'll start running for 30 minutes. That's, you know, I get out of bed. First thing I do is get in the sun and I run. I'll come home, have breakfast, do my work because cross train work never stops. 191 nutrition stuff never stops. So I do that. Then I hit my weight training gym. I'll go there for about an hour, hour and a half, which could be strength training, it could be kettlebell training, it could be, you know, body weight training, it could be any of that. Then I'll come back and I'll drill. So generally, if I have a gi tournament coming up, drilling means you look at specific positions and you practice those movements over and over and over again with a partner, so that when it comes to the fight, you are not thinking, your body is just moving by itself. Muscle memory बना देते हैं आप उसका. So I drill for about an hour, then I'll have lunch, I'll rest for a bit, get back to work, which is cross train work and 191 work, and then about 4 o'clock I'll leave. I'll go for the our center in Saket. That's where our competition team is, and from there I'll train from 5 p.m. to about 9:30 p.m. So that's 4.5 hours of, that's my most intense training. That's sparring, that's conditioning, that's training, teaching, all of that combined. And then at 9:30 I will leave from there. I'll have a, you know, whey protein, and I'm from here to here about a hour and a half. Reach here by 10:30, 11. Have dinner. Write my list of things to do tomorrow, and then sleep, and then start over 6 o'clock next day. Repeat till competition. Then as you're leading up to the competition, you need to start cutting down on calories. You need to do different things to make weight, because you also as an athlete have to make weight. So if I'm walking around at 72, I'm not fighting at 72. I'll fight at 69 or 68. So then a week leading up, I also need to cut weight. So I cut weight, I make weight. So all of that also happens. So that's my day. It's about, I'll say about 8 hours of training leading up to a tournament.
And what about sleep?
8 hours. I try and hit 8 hours. So my issue is that generally when I have class there in Saket, I get back only at 10:30. So then I quickly have dinner and I'm trying to sleep. But then I need to wake up at 6:30, 7. So it's very tight for me. So now I have a sleep tracker, but 8 hours is what I always recommend. For an athlete, 8 hours is what you need minimum. Anything less than that, you're struggling.
Interesting.
So for me, it's always a battle. At night, I'm running. People run when they're in the morning to make it for the job.
Yeah.
I'm running at night to make it for sleep. I need to get to sleep. I need to get to quickly eat and sleep, eat and sleep. So it's the opposite, it's the other way around.
Like, I want to know it from your perspective. For a man who starts training, like, or fighting, not just regular training, but fighting. So as a man, उसकी life में क्या change होगा?
Everything changes. For someone, I'm guessing the person who wants to fight, if he wants to train, he decided कि मेरे को ये, I need to try this fighting thing. Everything is going to change, because there's one thing looking at the sport from a distance कि मेरे को लगता है ये ऐसा होगा. Another thing doing it. बाहर से people who want to do it, a lot of kids who want to do it, it seems very glamorous. They see UFC, they see lights, they see Octagon, they see like ring girls, they see models, they see Varun Dhawan in the audience. You see all of that, and then when you come for training, you realize, oh, that वो अभी बहुत दूर है जाके है. उससे पहले मेरे को रोज सुबह उठना है, ट्रेनिंग पे आना है, अच्छा खाना खाना है, हेल्दी, रेस्ट करना है, रिकवर करना है, टेप स्टडी करना है. कोच ने बोला है ये चीज़ें स्टडी करनी है, नोट्स बनाने हैं, शाम को दोबारा ट्रेनिंग पे आना है, अगले दिन बॉडी चाहे दर्द कर रही हो नहीं करनी हो, जाना है उठ के, मिस नहीं करना है. तो इट चेंजेस अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, योर फोकस चेंजेस. आई टेल यू अबाउट मी, व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड टू टेक दिस MMA थिंग सीरियसली, I stopped watching cricket, stopped watching football, stopped following any other sport. Because just this requires so much of my bandwidth. मेरा पूरा दिमाग, मेरा पूरा focus इस पे ही लगा हुआ है. इतना fast evolving sport है, इतने सारे students हैं हम लोगों के कि my entire focus is just MMA. So I've got this MMA world which I've created, which is our academies, our students, our fighters, our nutrition, our tournaments. We also do tournaments, ADCC and AGP. So that's my ecosystem I've created. And then I have my family. And that is it. So any fighter who's trying to make this a living, their world will become very narrow. जैसे घोड़ा जो जा रहा होता है, घोड़े की में the others thing, no, the tunnel vision.
Yeah.
As a fighter, that's what you'll become. You will unfortunately become isolated. When you go with your other friends, थोड़ा सा awkward हो जाएगा because you will not have as many things to talk about. कि वो Instagram में वो reel देखी, नहीं देखी यार. आपने वो देखा Big Boss में क्या हुआ था, नहीं देखा. So you will start cutting. Those things will happen. But what will happen also is you will start moving in the right direction, the direction you've chosen. Now you're not looking at 10 different रास्ता. आपने एक रास्ता देखा है and you're going full ahead on it. And fighters have actually used it. They've used that, whether they've made it as a fighter or not, they've seen that, oh, अगर मैं सिर्फ ये करता रहूँ, इस path में ये चीज़ें करता रहूँ, मैं काफ़ी improvement कर सकता हूँ. Same चीज़ I used in business. I'm like, oh, if I need to do these things, you know, in MMA to get better, or if I do the same things for a different task, I can do better in this other area as well. So that's what my students have got from me. A lot of them stopped doing the sport for whatever reason, but they achieved great things in other areas of life. And same thing with me. I use that same focus because I've seen how it works with MMA and BSJ. I've just rechanneled it and achieved great things in other areas also. So yeah, everything changes when you get into MMA and combat sports.
Interesting. And आपको तो पता ही होगा how much like people who are new to this, they have this generic question कि how much money is there in this scene currently in India?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question that people have, all parents ask. A lot of parents
वहीं
ask
से आ रहा है सवाल.
हाँ कि हमारे बच्चे को MMA करना है, कितना पैसा उसमें है. It's really varies. Anshul, for example, when he won the road to the UFC contract, he won the fight bonus that he got was $50,000, which I will say was close to 40 lakhs. That he got for his bonus. उसके ऊपर win bonus अलग था and all of that. So that's where you can get. And if you look at how much Conor McGregor makes, millions and millions and millions for a fight. So the top ceiling doesn't exist. You can achieve great things. The problem is the bottom level. As an amateur fighter, जब आप शुरू करते हो ट्रेनिंग, पहले आपको amateur fights खेलनी पड़ती हैं. And amateur fights में you don't get paid. You have to pay to take part.
Okay.
When you're amateur, nobody wants to pay you to. Nobody will pay you. आप हो कौन? You're nobody. So first you need to create a record. आप खुद का record बनाते हो, उसमें investment करते हो. Training करते हो, investment है. पैसे देते हो gym में. Equipment खरीदते हो, investment. Tournament में जाते हो, investment. Which is why I always say, when you're trying to make this a sport, initially investment डालो. अच्छा gym ढूंढो. थोड़े पैसे उसमें डालो अच्छे gym में. अच्छे equipment खरीदो. वहाँ पर अगर उन्होंने पैसे बचा लिए, घटिया जिम चले गए, घटिया सामान ले लिया, तो वो घटिया ही रहेगा, वो आपका एंड में पे ऑफ नहीं होगा. इनिशियली स्पेंड, इट्स योर इन्वेस्टमेंट. आप अगर अच्छी पढ़ाई में करोगे तो यू विल बिकम अ गुड स्टूडेंट. सेम थिंग विद एमएमए. इफ यू इन्वेस्ट इन गुड अकेडमीज, कोचेज, you will be in a good place to achieve great things in the future. So yeah, initially as an amateur you have to pay. Some tournaments make you pay 2,000 rupees, some 3,000, some 4,000. You take part, but you build a record. जैसा आपका record बनता है, if you, like Anshul was 15-0, he was undefeated in his amateur career, which is why इसको pro का chance मिला. तो you need to fight amateur. आपने 10-15 फाइट जीत ली, अच्छा amateur record हो गया, then you will get a chance to fight in the professional. Professional में you get paid. But professional में भी also you'll be, when you're starting off, you'll be a low level fighter. 0-0 का record है, शुरू करो. When you start winning fights 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, तब आपका प्रोफाइल बनने लगता है कि बंदा अच्छा है, 4 जीत चुका है, 5 जीत चुका है. Then promotion start to pay you more. कि अच्छा फाइटर, 5 undefeated फाइटर है भाई, he could be good. Then they start bidding for you. ये टूर्नामेंट, ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बोल रहा है कि विल पे यू दिस मच लैक्स, दिस वन सेज नहीं हमें चाहिए, विल पे यू. देन इट बिकम्स अ मोर lucrative thing. But again, if he loses, now he's 5-1. 5-1 is very different from 5-0. So now again it's climb again. Now he becomes 10-1. Now again it's attractive. Promotion like, oh, 10-1, अच्छा फाइटर है. So that's how it works with MMA. आपको फाइट जीतते रहना है. and you will get good opportunities. India, if you fight like India's largest promotion is Matrix Fight Night, MFN, which is run by the Shroffs, Tiger Shroff, his family, Aisha Shroff, ma'am, and Krishna Shroff. They are the ones who run it. There, easily they can make a few lakhs per fight.
Which fight of yours, like as a fighter, is your favorite in your career?
My favorite fight was against this guy from Commando Group. Now, a lot of the audience, I'm pretty sure you also don't know, but a lot of audience will not know what Commando Group is. So, in UAE by itself doesn't have an army.
Right.
It's a very rich country. They don't have an army. So what they've done is they've gone to South America, and South America said they've hired a bunch of mercenaries, a bunch of assassins, a bunch of killers, and they pay those people to come to UAE and work as their army.
Okay.
They work on a group called the Commando Group. They're Black Cat Commandos.
Okay.
So I fought a guy from the Commando Group from Colombia, a black guy. Yeah, he's a Black Cat Commando, and this was in the semi-finals. And now when I looked at him, I was like, okay, this could be interesting because this guy is good. He's very good. He's won a lot of tournaments. He's a commando. I mean, he's a Black Cat Commando, and I'm like this guy from India who nobody knows, nobody cares about, but I'm there. And now the fight starts, and now what also happens is a lot of the referees and judges kind of have favorites,
right,
based on the country.
Okay.
So a Brazilian South American referee will kind of help out the South American Colombian guy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, man. It's like,
अच्छा ऐसा भी होता है?
of course hota hai.
Okay.
And he's Commando Group. He is the owner of the tournament, is also the owner of Commando Group.
Oh,
so
okay.
there is that element also happening. And there's me, Indian guy, with no connections, with nobody. Even my academy wasn't registered at the time. So I'm there. So the fight starts, and he got some points on me initially. I fought back, and I got some points on him. And now I'm winning the fight 3-2. So I'm 3, he's 2. Close fight. We're very close. About 2 minutes to go. And I'm like, okay, he's got good positions on me, but I'm like, okay, I think I'm winning this. I've got it. I've got my students at the top also cheering me and like, coach, jeet rahe. I'm like, yeah, we're winning it. About 40 seconds to go in the fight, they stop the fight. The referee says, stop. They do a monitor review, like third umpire. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? And they wave off 2 points. This is the signal that wave off 2 points. So now I go from winning 3-2 to now losing 1-2. They remove 2 of my points. And I'm looking at my students like, what happened? They're like, what happened? And there are videos of my students abusing, like, what the fuck? Kyun? And I'm like, I can't believe what is happening. Itna mushkil se I managed to get this guy and I'm winning it. Anyway, so I got up and now look at the time. I'm like, okay, 40 seconds to go. I'm behind on point. This guy is very good. He's not good. He is very good. He's a commando here. And I'm trying to move him around, not able to move him around. And then it was just one of those things where, remember I told you the story about the Russian guy who threw me on my head a couple of times? Thought about that fight. I'm like, that guy did a collar drag on me, hit my face twice. I'm losing the fight. Let's just try that collar drag on this guy. And I grabbed his collar and I was so frustrated at that point. Itna main close aake main haarne wala hu yahan par. I collar dragged him with everything I had. I collar dragged him with so much anger and rage and frustration. His head hit the mat. Like, remember, I got up. He did not get up, bro.
Oh, damn.
His head hit the mat, and I could see as soon as I landed, he was dazed. He was out of it. I got back up. I passed his guard, which is how you get your points. I grabbed him, passed his guard, got my points. Time finished. I won that fight. Everybody in the audience was like, they were on their feet, like, what the hell just happened? How does an Indian guy beat someone from the Commando Group? My students went mad. I injured my groin in the process because the way I pulled him, and I pulled him with so much force, that my body itself could not take the impact of it. But yeah, I think that fight, that was pretty rare for me because I told you I'm not very emotional in the fight. I'm very technical, and here I got pretty emotional about it because I'm like, man, I've done everything right. I've sacrificed so much, I've trained so much, I've gotten there to this point where I'm about to be in the finals, and now they're robbing me like this for no rhyme or reason. So I went and won that. So yeah, that I think will be my favorite fight ever.
And fight other like in the general fighting scene, which one is your favorite fight?
If I have to look at MMA fights, I would probably say there's so many good fights, man. So many
But
difficult.
then there is one, like for me, there's one fight of Ryan Garcia where he just knocks out with his left hook in within
A recent one.
Yeah.
It's a recent one, yeah.
Similar for you, which one is it?
For me, I would probably say the first time Brock Lesnar fought Frank Mir, that was a pretty exciting fight because I knew Brock Lesnar was like a legit wrestler, like a NCAA champ. Frank Mir was my favorite fighter at the time because he was a jiu-jitsu guy. Jiu-jitsu guy, he was a black belt. He was a wrestler versus a jiu-jitsu guy. And Frank Mir had just come off a big motorcycle accident. He had a broken leg also. And then it was Frank Mir caught Brock Lesnar in a knee bar, tapped him with that. It was just amazing. I just couldn't believe that jiu-jitsu could be so effective against such a high-level NCAA wrestler. So yeah, one of my favorite fights I think ever.
Okay, very interesting. Just last two questions now, and in this whole process, like for the audience, if you see, like if you separate fight from it, like just general life as a man, how do you become great?
That's a great question. Have you heard I'm sure you studied it, but have you heard the concept of compounding?
Yes.
So compound interest is something that we're taught in school.
Yeah.
So there's simple interest and there's compound interest. You know, PRT upon divide by 100 is simple interest, and that bracket mein dal ke wo fucking at the rate of n is your compound interest. So I feel for anyone to achieve greatness, you need to first figure out what you really want to do. It could be anything that you're passionate about, with a relevant opportunity in the market. For example, I'm talking about business strategically, great things in business. It could be taken from a political point of view also. It applies everywhere. It can be in sports also. Let's talk about business. So something that you're passionate about, and there's an opportunity for it also in the world. So let's talk about MMA because that's what I did. I looked at, my passion was combat sports. I love training. And I also saw in India that nobody was doing it. Obviously, people were like, you're stupid. You're doing something that nobody else is doing. But I was like, yeah, if nobody is doing it, it means somebody should be doing it. You know, it's the fastest growing sport in the world. Nobody's doing it. I see it as an opportunity. People saw it as an obstacle. कोई कर नहीं रहा है, मतलब कुछ होगा नहीं. I thought if I put in the compound interest formula into MMA, if I start going in, doing good classes, teaching good things, teaching it to good people in a quality manner, win tournaments, do blah 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 blah, do a million things every single day that other people don't want to do, compound interest will start hitting. And again, when there's a story about compound interest that I love. You know, there was this farmer that went to a king, and he said that, you know, king, you're a great king. Can you give me 1 grain of rice? That's all I ask for. King is like, you just want one? Why just one? He's like, okay, if you want to help me out, then can you just like give me 1 grain today and maybe like 2 grains tomorrow and maybe like 4 grains day after? Can you do that for a month?
Right.
King's like, easy. He tells the guard, yeah, just double it every day. On the 30th day, the guard comes to the king and says, King, we have a problem. The king's like, what's the problem? The guard is like, we've run out of food. Like, why?
Right.
And they did the math. It comes upon millions and millions and millions of grains come to the 30th day. That's how compound interest works. So it's not linear. So even with work, with MMA, the way things have grown is grown exponentially. It's grown at compound interest. The way the good work that we did 10 years ago, you would do a great thing and nothing will happen tomorrow.
Right.
Great thing happens, you do it for 2 months, nothing happens. 6 months, maybe something happens, maybe nothing. 1 year, some people notice that some work is going on. Man, in 10 years, people are calling you the best coach in the country. brands want to tie up with you. You have an Indian in the UFC. It's crazy. So that's compound interest. So choose a area which you're passionate about, and since like you're doing podcasting, I'm sure you get the same thing.
Right.
मैं कर रहा हूँ, I'm doing this. Is there anything to this? कब तक करता रहूँगा? Will I be the next Joe Rogan? Will I not be? Beer biceps is doing well. These are the things.
Right.
But you have to think of it. People think about days and months
Yeah.
and weeks.
Yep.
You need to think decades, bro.
Decades.
Decades, bro. You've got to think long term, long term. If you keep doing this, if you keep doing this regularly, in the next 40 years, you're going to be the number one podcaster in the country, bro.
Right.
That's all it is. That's compounding. If you're doing this for 40 years, trust me, nobody else is doing for 40 years.
Right.
You'll be the top guy. That's it. So if you want to be great, fix what you want to do
And do it.
Fucking do it forever, man. You outwork everybody. Nobody is catching up to that. Nobody can do 40 years.
Definitely.
You do that, man.
Very interesting perspective. Share any of your favorite quote, like the quote that takes you, always takes you, like in your low moments and your high moments.
I'll mention two.
Sure.
Not a quote, but one was a poem that I had in school. It was a poem by Rudyard Kipling, which was if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. I don't know why, I was too young. I was like in class 7 or something. But that poem even then hit a chord. Like, why is this speaking to me so much? Why is this poem connected to me? There was a connection. And I had that throughout my life. I constantly did things which people didn't approve of, people didn't like, people didn't accept. It's like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. People will always, so I never cared about that aspect. In fact, now it's become a fuel for me. If someone says you can't do that, I'm like, okay, I'll prove you wrong, bro. Let me just prove you wrong. Because that's how 191 started off.
Right.
Some brand reached out and they were like, oh, we want to sponsor you, but we don't want to, give you this or we want to give you that. I'm like, okay, I'll do it myself. They're like, no, you can't. You're an athlete, you can't. I said, I'll show you, bro. Same thing happened with tournaments. Our team would go for tournaments all over the country, and the athletes were treated really poorly, really badly. They treat athletes like cattle, man, like really badly. No facilities, they treat them badly. Results are, they'll make, fight is supposed to be 5 minutes, 2 minutes mein khatam kara ke hataओ, next. Kisi ko chot lag gaya, they don't care. No like prizes, no nothing, terrible. So I said, I'm going to change this, man. I'm sick of my students being so good and not getting the right platform. So I went and I got ADCC, which is Abu Dhabi Combat Club. It's the world's most prestigious jiu-jitsu tournament, and AGP, where I compete at. I got both of them to India. So now we're doing tournaments, world-class tournaments. I've done ADCC in DLF Mall Saket. We've done it in a beach resort in Goa. We've done 5-6 events. Last time we were in a 5-star. So these kids have gone from competing in like terrible locations, वहाँ पर खाना नहीं मिलता है, mad गंदे हैं, to now our kids competing in a 5-star hotel. So people like, they doubt me. I'm like, I'll prove you wrong, bro. So yeah, that poem for me, if is the number one. If I had to mention something else, I think that'll be the one poem that always sticks out to me, man. So I won't even talk about number 2. There's a number 2, but I think like that one, yeah, don't care about what other people are saying or doing. Do what you want to do, compound it, and then you'll be great.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, it's there's this quote by this guy, I don't recall his name. The quote is that if you're doing something which the success is sure, like if it's sure that you're going to succeed, then what's the point? Do something which which you can't think of doing, and then continue to do it. That's where,
yeah,
and die doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you knew the outcome of the story, then the story is not interesting. Man, it all comes down to that story, man. How crazy and how wild can your goals be? When I started off jiu-jitsu, when that little girl was choking me out, did I think I'll be a 4-time world champion in this sport? Will I be a black belt? Man, black belt. Jiu-jitsu is not a sport where you can get a black belt easily, man. It took me 12-13 years to get my black belt, and in India, I'm the only competition black belt. Hai nahi koi, bro. It's so difficult to get. So yeah, I mean, set difficult goals for yourself. My goal was Indian in the UFC, black belt, got it. Now I can't be happy with this, man. Now I need to
Yeah.
set new goals, higher goals, goals which people are saying stupid. That's stupid. So with like the business I'm getting into, the tournaments and the supplements, there are much bigger players. Now my competition is not other gyms or the fighters. Now my competition is these big players who are funded and they've got a shit ton of money. That's my competition now. So let's go after them, and then once we reach there, we'll figure out what's next.
Definitely. Oof, that was a great conversation, sir. Thank you so much for being on Make Sense.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Inspired a lot. A lot of people who will be watching this, they must be, उनको ऐसे आग लग जाएगी बॉडी में सुनने के बाद, I'm sure. And I'm sure they make something great of themselves.
Cool, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope people, both men and women, but especially like men, like figure out what you want to do. Remember that you are the main character of your story.
You write your own story.
You write your own story, and you focus on you, man. Don't focus on people who abandoned you or people who haven't been there for you. Be there for yourself. You won't need anyone else.
Thank you, sir.
Cool, man.
Thank you again.
Cheers, man. Cheers,
Thank
man.
you.